I would like to welcome Cubia game developer Muhammed Karabulut. He will talk about the pitfalls, challenges, and trade-offs of solo development using Cubia as an example. Now I'm inviting him to join us. Hi, welcome, Muhammed.
Hello. Thank you.
So you can share your screen and start when you are ready.
Thank you, Indieway, for giving me this chance to talk to you about a certain topic that I'm really interested about. I'm going to introduce myself and show you all about this thing. Hopefully you can see the screen. Is that good?
Yep, we can see it. No problem.
So the topic is how to make it, as a solo developer in an indie game development project. And as an indie game developer myself, I wanted to talk about this topic. I am Muhammed Karabulut. You might have seen Cubia from before. I was also in Indieway a couple of months back. I showcased my game. I'm a game developer for a long time now, and I've been focused on mobile, VR, and PC experiences. And right now, I'm a senior lecturer at Eastern Mediterranean University in Cyprus, and I'm teaching Unity, C#, programming, VFX, and level design. So this talk is about my journey throughout developing Cubia, my passion project, PC puzzle game. Therefore, it's not going to be about mobile games. Generally, it's not going to be really about hyper-casual gaming. So what I say is just my own opinions about this kind of development that targets Steam and consoles. Let's just say you want to make a game. First of all, let me talk to you about what Cubia is. It's a simple 3D puzzle game on Steam, stylized visual style. I have been part-time developing this. I am working full-time as a lecturer, but in my free time, I've been developing this over 2 years now. As I told you, it's a passion project. I don't really see it as any other thing. And notably, in the last Gaming Istanbul 2020, I've got the first prize in the indie area. And you can see the photo there. It was a nice day, really nice event. And in the first Indieway, February, I also got the first place among the indie games. So this game is a cool game. I really like it. But why did I make it solo? How did I make it solo? I want to talk about that. First of all, warning, there are many pitfalls and challenges to solo indie game development. It is a very difficult challenge. However, it gives you the ultimate creative freedom. You can decide everything and anything. That means you have the most responsibility though. So you have to put many hats on, which means you have to become your own level designer. You have to become your own marketer. You have to be a good game designer as well as a UI artist and so on and so forth. So there is a way to do it, and I'll show you how best you can approach this. Though remember, the risk is high. So most indie games that are solo developed don't even see the day of light. However, the reward is high as well. So finally, seeing players enjoy the game in 2020, you can see the photos on the right. In Gaming Istanbul 2020, in this amazing indie area, we showed our games. There were many people there, indie developers, solo and teams. It was worth it. I really enjoyed it, and that is the payoff. Seeing players really enjoy the game. They had no idea about this game. Now they see it and they love it. That's the best. So I've developed a simple guide to show you what you need to think about before even starting your game. A couple of things. Only 4 main areas I'm going to talk about. Number 1 is scope and efficiency. This is relevant to all indie projects, not solo only. Second, I'm going to talk about game design, mechanics design, and rules. After that, I want to talk about quality over quantity. This is a very important concept that will make your game actually shine. A good game could be good to you. You could like your game, but how will you show it to the world if it's not high quality? I'll get to that. The last one, but not the least, is networking and marketing side of things. being a solo developer, we are inherently bad at this. And I'll show you how I am bad at this and how I want to solve it. Scope and efficiency are important keywords here. Number one thing you need to do if you're making an indie game, let alone solo, you have to scope your game. Scoping means defining the final outcome of the game before you start. What kinds of things there are going to be, how many mechanics, how many hours of gameplay. Is it going to be co-op? Is it going to be the next big MMO? First of all, you're not going to make the next MMO on your own. You're not going to make certain types of games on your own. There's no way. Even if the tools are great, the mental load is too much to deal with these stuff. So limit it, make it smaller. That is number one. Second is knowing your teams or yourself, if you're solo, capabilities. Well, let's just say you know how to do VFX really good. You can do little particle systems, and that feels good. However, you cannot do complex animations. Well, design the game around it. So in this case, in Cubia, I'll show you how I made it without using the things I don't know about, but using the things I really love to work on. So that's the second bit, playing to your strengths. If you're really good at something, visual design, 2D design, whatever you want, put it into your game so that it works really well with other things. One last thing about scope. If your time, when you have to do time estimates, people say, hey, when is the game going to be out? Well, I was naive at this. When I started, I was like, yeah, I made the main mechanic and the surrounding things in 3 months, which means if you give me 6 more months, you're going to get a polished, great game with everything on Steam. Well, I was wrong. I said this more than a year ago. I said I have 6 months left, and I still probably have 6 months left. So think about your time estimates. Always double it as a rule. At least double it, because you don't know. You don't know what kinds of things are going to come up. And especially if you're not full-time developer, if you're not developing this at every day 8 hours, right? So in my case, I'm a part-time developer, which is much more difficult. So I have to work all day, and then in the weekends and at nights, maybe I work on it a little bit. So we're going to think about those before starting. Well, how I scoped Cubia. Originally, I never intended the game to bloat itself. I didn't want it to get bigger. I wanted to be a small, concise, nice puzzle game. Nothing else, nothing more. No co-op, for example, no multiplayer, no online multiplayer, right? No voice acting. The storytelling would be very simple, if any. And I defined my technical procedures around it. I made it grid-based. Everything is easy to put on. The levels are easier to design. You don't have to put lots of props into the game if it's grid-based. It's blocky visuals. I can create the meshes. I'm not a 3D visual designer by trade. I can do some. That's exactly what I did. I did some blocky visuals. It's simple, but it's consistent. I'll get to that, how I make it consistent later. And it's faster to produce. So I checked myself. In the first year, I can tell you that I produced all of the parts of the game slowly, and I tested myself how fast I can do it. So as you can see in the first video here, Cubia was a prototype. And in the prototype, everything is wrong. Everything is weird. Nothing is consistent. However, I'm testing the main mechanic. I am seeing if there is a merit to this main mechanic. It looks like you cannot solve it, but the tools the game gives you allow you to solve a certain puzzle of redirecting a laser by walking around. In this version, walking around was not the solution. You had to click a button to rotate it. It's horrendous. It's wrong. But yeah, so this was how it was before. Here you can see the solution. I find it while I'm playing. So I learn about what is possible in the game already. And I don't want to push it too much. And yeah, that's scoping, right? What about motivation? Well, I motivated myself around the things I love. I love geometry, I love physics, and I love colorful visuals. So you can see this game is all about these 3 things. And if you're interested in your thing, in your project, you can do it. If you're not interested, you're going to lose your motivation on the long term, right? So one last thing that is different from most people, that I had no time pressure. I didn't have a release date earlier. I just wanted to see what I can do, but I still simplified the game. I still knew that one day, if I want to finish this game, it has to be scoped properly. It still took way longer than I expected, even if I made it very simple. Efficiency is key when making your game, right? So how did I implement efficient workloads? The main idea is this. Two things should be always in your mind. Reduce the workload you have to do the tasks while improving the work efficiency of all tasks, so you can make it even faster. So two things work together, right? To do this, you need to learn and utilize correct tools and workflows. This might mean taking the time off from development and learning the correct tools so that in the future, you're going to be way faster. For example, Blender, Substance Designer, Amplify Shade Editor, Photoshop, and Quicksilver Mixer are among the software I had to learn. I have to learn first and then apply. On top of that, there is project management. This is also something that you require to use software with, and I use Trello and ClickUp. You could use more or less, doesn't matter, you have to use tools. That's what I'm saying here, right? Another thing is libraries and open source code. If you're programming, well, people say don't reinvent the wheel. Of course. Use the open source code that is available to help your system. For example, in Level Designer of Cubia, I have fuzzy search. Fuzzy search is a very nice algorithm where it lets you search something, even if you write it wrong, it comes up with it, just like in Google. Well, it's implemented in .NET as an open source project. I use that. However, don't steal other people's wheels either, right? What do I mean by that? Well, some people steal the main core ideas and the identity from other games. When you look at a game, you shouldn't be able to immediately say, oh, this is a Counter-Strike clone, even with the art style, or this is an Overwatch clone, right? Or a simplified Last of Us. You don't want that. You want some certain level of originality so that you have your own way of explaining your game. If your game is very similar to any other game, well, you're going to have a bad time because they had way more money probably, and you don't want to get compared. So ultimately, create and follow efficient workflows, and this is to work smart, right? So in the end, don't forget to have fun, obviously. I really love node-based workflows, so that's why I added these things. I love visual workflows, that's why I did that. All right. Well, this is the most important part from game design and mechanics when you're making an indie game. This is going to be specifically about puzzle design. I want to show you interesting ideas here, right? Puzzle design of Cubia was the most central thing about the whole game. What I did was to design to support my strengths. I like geometry. I like thinking about mathematical and geometric puzzles. Well, that's it. The whole game is a geometric puzzle, but it looks good. That's the idea. And it's also really fun. The game feel is in there and so on. So we'll talk about all of that. But in this case, I want to talk about the core gameplay. This is a very important topic that lots of people talk about, but many students, as I've seen, completely forget about. So what do I mean by that? Well, first, you need to design your core gameplay or main mechanic, and then you need to make your game around it. So this is the Nintendo way. You make a simple version of your game where everything else is stripped. You are just left with walking around, doing the main thing you do. In this game, in this case, is walking around, rotating cubes. That's the main mechanic. There's nothing else. Well, Nintendo famously tests their games for months like this. They jump around with Mario for months until it feels good. What I mean by feel good, controls feel good, just doing the mundane things in the game are fun, right? That's all there is to it. So what about if you found your core gameplay? What do you do next? Well, that's simple as well. Your new features should always support the game, support the core gameplay. It should add to it. It shouldn't break the main idea. Okay, so you shouldn't deviate from it too much. Let me show you how I did that in Cubia specifically. For example, at first I experimented a lot. I've experimented with many different types of games, genres, because I just didn't know what I'm making. I made a tower defense game. In a week, I turned it into a shooter, twin stick shooter, right? And it was really good. I was like, I want to make a shooter, definitely. I'm interested in those games. I played Nuclear Throne. I played Enter the Gungeon. I love them. I want to make it. Though, when I was making that, I was trying to come up a way to show the levels in a different way. I wanted to show the next level, next room as a roguelike game on a cube. I realized if you can see the next level, you can rotate to it, and then that could be your next level, next room. Here's a different idea. Here's a really good idea, right? But I realized that rotation thing has too much potential in it. So what I did is explore. I explored this idea. I rotated stuff. I put mazes on them. I made it huge. I made it small. I made it fast. In the end, I got rid of shooting. To this day, still in Cubia, there's some preliminary shooting code I still haven't removed because I was sure that this is going to be a shooting game. But I had to remove it because this works better. This is a stronger, deep mechanic. I found my mechanic. It's rotating cubes when you walk over them, and it's always on the same plane. Well, I decided to check out what you can do with it. When you rotate, what happens? Does it have interesting puzzle potential, right? And I realized, yes, it does. Then I said, okay, I'm gonna design my game around this very thing. I will never change it. I will never add shooting, even if it feels good. So I explored the main mechanic. You can see the technical explorations I did on the right. The first one shows you when you rotate to a certain area. Let's just say you want to go to one right. So maybe you can see this character is trying to go one front, basically. It wants to roll it once, but there is multiple ways to roll it. If you roll it from the right, you get a different configuration. And if you go from any other place, it's going to get a different configuration. There are many configurations in superposition. I realize this is a non-holonomic system. This is a technical term that tells you the game state depends on how you take the route there, but not where you go. So in the same place, you have multiple states waiting to happen, which is a perfect way to make a puzzle game in my view. So I realized this is very high potential, and I studied the non-holonomy of the system, I created rules about how I learned about what kinds of configurations you cannot do. For example, look onto the bottom video. You can see I'm just endlessly rotating around a singular point. This allows me to switch all these faces, but really, if you look at closely, I am only switching 3 faces. Look at these. The plus one, the prism one, and the empty one are just changing positions. I'm never seeing the other 3 faces of the cube while doing this. So the game is intuitive, but it is difficult. You feel like you can get that prism up there, but it's really counterintuitive when you try to do that. But it's obvious, it's just a cube rotating. There's nothing to it, right? So I love the idea. I really enjoyed all of these different things. And the first thing I did was adding lasers, as you've seen before. Why? Well, I implemented it without adding anything else to the game. I stuck the prism onto the rotatable cube so that we don't touch anything. We just rotate the cube. We just walk and the game changes state. Right. So I came up with 4 different mechanic design rules in Cubia. This is to add other mechanics. I am now fine with my main mechanic next, which is getting supported mechanics. In this case, you need rules. Otherwise, you will go and add irrelevant stuff and you'll blow your game. So for this, I have created 4 main rules, albeit these are not all of the rules I used. There are more smaller rules that I convey sometimes. But in this case, here's number 1, novelty. If a new game mechanic can be replicated with existing mechanics in some way or another, then I will not add that. I will replicate it with the existing mechanics as a dynamic. Does it create new interesting puzzle opportunities for me? And is it fun also? Then I will consider adding it. That's number 1. You can see many different kinds of little supportive mechanics on the right. Second, designability. This is only relevant if you're making a level designer or a designer system in your game. I intend to have a level designer in-game where you can use Steam Workshop to create and send people games and play and even rate them. So I design my mechanics around the designability of them. So how easy are they to add to the level designer? Can I just drag and drop them into the level designer and it works? It's obvious from its visuals. Is it a plug and play kind of thing? Or does it create stalemates? For example, I had many different ideas that were great if I designed it. But if I gave it to everyone, they could design horrendous puzzles with boring gameplay and stalemates, where people cannot get out of the situation they created. So I never put them in. I don't even let myself design them if it's really dangerous. Third one is compatibility. This is the most important one, obviously, because how does it react with other mechanics? If I have lasers, it has to fit in with the main mechanics. If I have a supportive mechanic like welding the cubes, like what you're seeing right now, well, it works via lasers. Lasers get them together and lasers get them apart. Blue lasers freeze them together and red lasers break them up. So how can I best make it compatible with my game? How many new dynamics am I creating with this mechanic? How many new play styles am I creating? How many new interesting events in the game am I creating? So that's compatibility. Last but not least, simplicity. This is very important. As I told you, it's a solo development as an indie game. We have to keep it simple. Does it overcomplicate the game? Does it make the core gameplay a chore if I add this? Does it require 50 turns, 50 moves to even do this thing? Is it not simple? Then I don't add it. Can we just use it by walking around, or do I have to add multiple inputs? Do I have to click R2 and L1 to actually control this mechanic? Then I don't want to add it because it's complicating the main core gameplay. Okay, these 4 rules serve me well in Cubia, and everything you see and you will see when the full game is out is going to be designed by these 4 rules. Let me show you a simple example. This is a thing I've added around 5 months ago, Magnetable prisms. A magnetable prism is a prism that is on the local space of the rotatable cube. It can be attached to a rotatable cube. It can be detached from it. So let's watch it again. Originally, this laser is never going to get into this door. We need to make that happen. To do that, you need to capture it. I need to roll it to a correct position. And in the future, maybe you will need that laser there. So you will leave that prism there. So to be able to leave it, you have to be able to detach it. This is very similar to the main mechanic of the game. Very similar to the local prisms or world prisms that are staying on the world, but it is different. It merges them really well. It's new. It is easy to design. It's just one object. It's a different object called Magnetable prism, and you just put it somewhere and it'll work. That's it. It is compatible with all the other things, and it creates interesting gameplay, and it is very, very simple. It adds only one button for interaction for when you want to click them and click them away. However, we're going to use that interaction for other things as well, so we're fine. Just walking and one button. That's it. The game is done. Well, how do I make it high quality? There's all of this thing. I care about quality over quantity. I'm talking about simplicity all the time over adding multiple things. Well, the mantra I use is simplify, then amplify. That's what I'm using all the time. Let me show you on the right. These photos are from a year apart, each of them. The first one is one of the first weeks of Cubia. The second one is after around a year or 9 months. And the last one is from today. What's changed? What's happening? First of all, visual consistency, visual quality is rising. If I cannot execute a certain feature well, I'm not adding it in. I'm not suddenly adding new weird skeleton animation systems because I know I cannot do it well. So it stays. I know the consistency is key. So I'm always adding new things to make the consistency better or removing things. For example, look at the wall design in the second one and the first one. In the first one, I have soft edges and hard edges together working. And the main character is soft-edged. Well, it's not consistent. In the second one, I make everything kind of more, round edges, but I add too much flair to everything. The visual effects are too much. Sometimes you have to tone it down. In the last one, you can see everything is more harmonious. Everything works well. There is a high fidelity to it in its own way, but it's still the same thing. It's still cubes, still beveled shapes everywhere, and that's it. Okay. In this case, good visuals don't mean high fidelity visuals. Crisis, yes, it's good, but a very simple game like Stardew Valley looks great as well. It's one man making pixel art. If it's consistent, if it's nice, if it feels good, it's better than Crisis 3. Okay, that's what I feel. Especially for an indie game, you have to think like that. For game feel, of course, you must know this already. If you don't know, check out Art of Screen Shake by J.W. Neiman. He explains very simply in Game Maker how you can add 20 different elements to make game feel good. I definitely know about them and add them. In my game, I definitely added most of them to make it feel great. So that's how I go for a quality over quantity approach. What kinds of other things I've done in the past? Well, I scrapped many extra mechanics because they're just cluttering the game. I got rid of some small mechanics that didn't really add anything much. I didn't even implement them fully because I knew they were going to be a problem in the future. I kept it simple. I know I'm not a good animator, so I never animated anything properly. You can play the game, you can see all of it is procedural, simple animations and simple particle systems and visual effects. I know I love the effects, so I put the animations in the shaders and in the VFX to make it seem alive. Everything's moving, but there's no animation. And I used a simple yet consistent visual language. Everything is beveled the same way. Everything's trying to tell you the same kinds of things, right? The light is consistent, the shadowing is consistent, the shapes are consistent, and the UI is also consistent with this. And also the UX, everything fits in with that, okay? One last example is the originality of the game. Quality depends on how original you are. Yes, you will learn from others. Yes, you will learn from the best. However, definitely create your own voice, especially in visual style, because the world doesn't need more of the same, right? Especially from indie games. As indie game developers, we need to strive for new ideas. We need to take the risk that AAA will not, so that we can get the reward even more in the end, okay? So I made all the shaders custom for this game. Nothing is made from, original Unity shaders. So this is made in Unity. However, it doesn't look like a Unity game. It just looks like a game itself. The last one is networking and marketing. As I told you, we developers are generally not good at this. I am myself really bad at this. However, I learned that we should start early. If you're thinking about making a game, start thinking about the marketing and networking already, even before writing the first code. For example, the store page, be it Epic, Steam, PlayStation, whatever, you should talk to them, arrange it, read the documentation early. Like it should be public for 6 months prior to release in Steam, for example. You have to showcase your game, starting from after the first playable. Your game is looking maybe good, it feels good, it has the idea, then start showing. So I went to lots of game fairs in Istanbul and other places. You can see me in Gaming Istanbul 2020 showing people, explaining my game. They really liked it. I learned from them. I created a big network. I got their cards. People were interested. Some people were not. And in the end, I know them. I can talk to them in the future for feedback. And you got new fans. They'll be interested, right? Create your social media early. Create your Discord channel. Invite people. When you go to these showcases, show them something. Say, hey, if you're interested in this game, wishlist it on Steam, add the Discord. If you don't have those, you will not be able to do that, and you will lose this customer or a nice fan of your game. They're going to forget about it. People forget. Okay. Other than that, you need to know your competitors in this case. Well, of course, lots of people talk about this, especially marketing strategists. I'm not very good at this, but I know that you need to play and understand the details of these good games. Well, in my case, I researched similar games in the same niche, and I learned about them, right? I'm going to explain it in the next one. Also, wish lists and influencer interests in Steam are your primary success metrics. So you need to definitely have these things before your game is out. You need to have lots and lots of wish lists. Otherwise, it's not going to sell, unfortunately. Well, here's an example. Dear John Sungur, who also played my game before, checked my game out lately. Maybe you've seen this video, and it changed everything about this game. The game is the same. The reactions are the same. People like the game. However, the chart on the top right shows how many wish lists I got every week for around 2 years now, right? 1.5 years there. You can see in the first weeks, I got 20, 30 a day. It's good. People are seeing it and liking it, and Steam is pushing the algorithm in the first couple of days. After that, though, nobody's helping you. So you get 1 a day, maybe, right? If you're not sharing your game every day on every social platform, nobody's seeing it until somebody really likes it and they want to just play it on their platform and they have many followers, influencers, right? When he played it, you can see the huge spike. The first little spike is Facebook stream, where he showed this for the first time on a live stream. And the second one is this YouTube video that you're watching right now. It made a huge difference, not even huge difference. It made 100-fold difference in that week, in that month of the popularity of the game. So you need to get their help. You need to, get this kind of help. You need to get networking and marketing help. If your game is good, doesn't mean it's gonna sell, right? That's what I'm seeing here. Knowing the target audience, I told you, you need to know who's playing these kind of games and join their Discord channel. Talk to them, find them, who is making and playing these games, right? Study best of the genre. Well, Portal. This game is learning from Portal, Fez, A Monster's Expedition, Talos Principle, and games like that. I played them. I understood how they made this fun, geometric puzzle games, right? Of course, you'll learn different things, but I've learned what I need to learn to make Cubia. Ultimately, what I'm saying about networking is that you need a heavy strategy for networking marketing if you're on your own. The idea is to not be on your own. Get help, right? Get help for networking and marketing as you will with other stuff as well. So this is very important. I've seen many games in GIST and other places where it wasn't consistent. It wasn't simple enough. It didn't work well with lots of people, or it didn't have a niche to play. So people, they made a game, they had strategy elements, but it was casual in a way so that you can play. But it had this complicated UI, very complicated UI. The casual gameplay requires a consistent casual UI interface, right? So all of that things made it impossible for them to be popular in the end. It was a good game, but it will never be popular, right? So to not get into that pitfall, please make sure it's consistent, make sure you get help, and make a quality game and network it well. Well, what are the differences between a team and a solo? Well, you might have worked on a team. And let me show you really quickly the things you need to think about that you don't really need to think about in a team environment. The first thing is the feedback and quality assurance. In a team setup, you have a QA team maybe. People are checking the game's bugs and they're giving you feedback on the UX. As a solo developer, you need to test your game a lot. However, you need to request feedback from others. You need to get help in this case. Friends, indie showcases like GIST, Discord servers, anyone, forums, Unity forums, social media, Twitter, everywhere, request it. Second, division of labor in a team happens, obviously somebody is great at their work. They're doing 3D art and that's the only thing they do. But in this case, you're not doing that. You're doing everything. So you need to play to your strengths and eliminate the game. Eliminate all the things you cannot do or you cannot find a nice workflow of, right? So get rid of those things, simplify. Don't be afraid to simplify your game. It will still be good, I promise. If it's simple and beautifully polished, it's gonna be good. Self-scoping and motivation is just a simple management structure in a team. In a team, people tell you deadlines, people tell you to do stuff. You have a lead developer that's helping you out with stuff. Well, if you're making on your own, you have to be your own designer and developer at the same time. So manage yourself, learn how to manage yourself. If you cannot do it, maybe find a team, because it is nearly impossible to do it on your own, right? If you cannot even manage yourself. The second thing about managing is the motivation and managing expectations. Well, do not expect your first game to do well, obviously, right? Cubia is my first game that I'm pushing it out there on Steam. But before this, I made countless games on my own, countless little games that were playable, prototypes, tests, failures, right? It all comes from a background, around 5 years. The last bit is the PR and targeted marketing and the market analysis capabilities of a team. You don't have this. So realize that you don't have this. Use the tools, yes. Use the social media, yes. Get help. Maybe talk to publishers, maybe talk to influencers. Create something for yourself to be able to network and market this game. Otherwise, you will make a good game and only you will play it, right? So in the end, what do I mean by this whole thing? How to make it solo? While developing Cubia, I learned that it is a very difficult endeavor. And it is possible, I've learned. However, you have to be aware of the challenges. And if you're up for it, take your time, learn the correct things, do the things early, right? Networking, scoping, all those things early, and then go and do it, try it. Because it is very, very rewarding in the end. When people see it, when you see the game on Steam, I always love games on Steam. You know, I browse. One day, seeing your game like that and seeing people have wishlisted it, many people like it and try to play it. They want to play it. You know, it's an amazing feeling. So if you want that, try it, but with caution. Thank you for your time. This is my personal experience. This has been. Hopefully, you learned some things. There's many little details we can discuss in the Q&A. If you really liked what you saw in Cubia, please check it out and wishlist on Steam. You can also play the free demo on there. And that's about it. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you for joining. I guess we can move on to Q&A session right now. Salih asks, did you get any freelance help while making Cubia? What are your thoughts about it?
Freelance help is a great way to fill in certain areas that we cannot do ourselves. However, in this case, because I simplified it enough, I didn't require any help on the front of many things. So visuals, I've done all by myself, and I'm also developing the music myself right now. It's just because I had music background, so I'm feeling confident with it. However, for the key art and SFX, I intend to use freelance or outside support professionally.
Okay, we have another one from an anonymous attendee. He asks, very interesting talk, thank you. Is there a specific indie game or developer that has inspired / guided you while you have been making Cubia?
Yes, from afar, obviously, two names come to mind. One of them is Jonathan Blow, who has made Braid and Witness, and he's making a Sokoban style game right now. He's a very good puzzle designer. I really enjoy his way of thinking. He's really pushing the puzzle design to its limits. That definitely affected me. And second, the geometric design wise, Alan Hazelden, who made A Good Snowman is Hard to Build, and Sokobond, and A Monster's Expedition, and so on. These developers show me that there's a niche for this game, right? Also Fez. If you make it alluring enough, geometric, logical puzzles are a thing. It's a small thing. It's not like an FPS. It's not like a shooter, right? Not many people like it, but there is a very real possibility of success there. So they taught me that.
We have another one, also from an anonymous attendee. He says, first of all, he says he likes Cubia game really a lot, and also he visited you on the Gaming Istanbul Fair last year. He played your game. He asked the process of making the mechanics and also the idea creation, and how this process folded on your side.
Well, simply 3 steps. First, find your main mechanic. Before finding the main mechanic or core gameplay, exploration happens in a way that whatever you want to make, try it. I tried, as I told you, tower defense. I tried twin stick shooters. I love these things. Maybe my next game will be something like that. I tried all of them until I found something unique. Unique enough, and it had high potential. I just cared about these 2 things. Is it unique enough? It's different. And it has high potential for puzzle or gameplay purposes. Once you do that, the second thing you need to do is explore your main mechanic. So exploration of this mechanic took months. I'm talking about 5 months of just playing rotating things. I came up with the mathematics of this whole thing. I wrote notes. I realized if you rotate the cube around one area, you cannot see all the faces. But if you rotate it around 2 singularities, which requires 6 spaces, you can get to any configuration. So one of the things I realized is the limits of the main mechanic. What things are possible, what things are fun. So that's what you need to do. After you're done with everything that's possible and fun, support it with supporting mechanics by designing with rules, right? Come up with your own rules that's going to help you. Make sure it's novel, make sure it's compatible, make sure it's simple still, right? This is the procedure I followed. 3 steps. Explore what the main mechanic will be. Find the main mechanic, explore what its limits are, and add the secondary mechanics with rules. That's it.
Okay, we have another question. He asks, do you think to continue, are you planning to continue making this type of puzzle games? Should developers continue the type of games and master them as they started, and also, or should they try other genres?
This is a tricky one. In art, pursuing the same thing to perfection is generally much better. If you realize that you can really do puzzle games in a certain way, then maybe continue on a little bit more, make more similar types of games to see if it's still really unique, if you can still make it fresh and interesting. And if you can, yes, definitely continue on that. I mean, Alan Hazelden and Jonathan Blow are 2 real examples of puzzle developers. They are just making thinking puzzle games. They're just making that. There's nothing else going on. It's just the same. There's no shooting mechanics coming up randomly. There's no racing games happening. So yes, probably if you found your passion, continue from that line and add more to it, make it more unique next time, obviously.
Okay, I think we answered all the questions. Thanks a lot, Muhammed, for joining, for sharing your experiences. I personally really enjoy playing your game, and had the chance to play it on Gaming Istanbul too. Thanks a lot for joining again.
Thank you for giving me the platform to talk about this. Hopefully people learned something. I hope to see you after my next game is published. Maybe we'll talk about stuff later on. So thank you.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Of course.